and thank you for joining another JordanCon interview. Today I am interviewing Stephen Murphy. He had a distinguished career in two branches of the military, and he served as a police officer for 23 years, including SWAT, and he's a scuba diver. Hello, Stephen.
How you doing?
Great, how are you?
Awesome.
So,
Which, by the way, is one of my favorite words.
awesome. Okay, well, I won't ask you that question later then.
Oh, no, do, because I've got another answer.
Oh, good. Multiple favorite words is excellent. So obviously you are going to be a guest at JordanCon this year, and you are also an author, and you have a series called the Knights of the Flaming Star series, correct?
I do, yes.
Yeah. Do you want to
Back
tell
there
me a
on the
little bit
shelf.
about it?
There it is. Yeah. Shameless plug. Knights of the Flaming Star has been compared, unfortunately and fortunately, to Guardians of the Galaxy. It is a
I can see
mercenary
how
rogue unit. That's a good thing, though, because I love Guardians of the Galaxy. We started, Paul and I, our work. I'm a co-author.
Mm-hmm.
Back in high school, way back in the Middle Ages, and came up with this idea. Then life happened,
Mm-hmm.
and I went into the military. He went and did his thing. He started working in movies. I had got married, wife, kids, and all that goes with that, and a real job. Use quotes, and it just kind of sat back.
Mm-hmm.
We tried for a little while I was in the Navy. Believe it or not, back in old school, we used to write letters back and forth with what we were wanting to add to the book.
Pen and ink.
And yes, pen and ink.
Weird.
We'd handwrite, and we'd edit each other's stuff and send it back. Of course, back then it was weeks before when I was overseas. But it's a space opera, lack of a better term, and it is a group of rogue mercenaries that travel the galaxy. They're a secret organization for the government, but also a mercenary group.
Mm-hmm.
Is how they pose. So it'd be more of a Delta Force kind of um, group that is also special forces because they infiltrate and um, carry out super secret missions for whoever happens to be, but they're the good guys.
Uh-huh.
And they're like that when we have multiple races and different things, and there's a surprise about the ship that they fly in. It's a how writers are. I like it, so
Well, that's
and
good. I mean, you could hate it, I guess.
sure. But we've written a couple. We've got another one coming out. Going to be Night Gambit. Should come out hopefully. Fingers crossed. We've got a big project in the works, but hopefully the third one will come out this year. It's not a trilogy. It is an ongoing series, kind of like a lot of others. We'll just go until we don't want to write it anymore,
Until you run
and then
out
we'll
of
close it out.
ideas.
Yes, and I don't see that happening. It's a galaxy, so it'd be tough to run out of ideas. But that's kind of the long and short of it.
That's great. As a space opera, does it have any influences from Star Wars?
I want to say yes and no.
Uh-huh.
How could it not? Because back when Star Wars first came out, Paul and I were, myself especially, we were in high school, and how could it not influence your view of how the galaxy and the travel and
Formidable
going from place?
years. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, it had to have. I'd like to say it's nothing like Star Wars. Some of the characters are. Some of the bringing from if I had to draw in various races and things like that, we have kind of like that. They're not all humanoid per
Mm-hmm.
se, but Star Wars was an influence on a lot of science fiction people from that point forward. Like I said, how could
It's
it
true.
not be?
It's
Even
true.
if you try not to be,
It will
but it
be
is.
somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
The since it's going to be an ongoing series and not like a trilogy or anything like that, do each of your books follow a main character, or is each book kind of its own story in this galaxy?
I'm going to answer that with a yes again. Um, it's a group of five and six, depending on, and seven, depending on who comes and goes throughout,
Mm-hmm.
as it travels through. But our main group is five, and the first book ends. It kind of flows into the second book. The second book I won't want to say it's a cliffhanger, but it kind of is. It's not really. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's its own thing. But the third one will end for sure, and then we'll start another one. Our goal is to make pretty much every book standalone, but you need to read them in order so you understand who the characters are. So we don't spend a lot of time going back and explaining who the main characters are. We assume that if you're in book 3, you've read book 2, 1 and 2.
Okay.
But so that that's how that goes.
But you could still read book 3 without feeling like you necessarily need it, or
I would read, of course, shameless plug. I'd read them all.
of course.
But that's kind of how they're designed, is to have read, but you won't miss the idea of book 3, or let's use book 2 since book 3 is not out. You won't miss the idea of book 2. You'll just miss the idea of what the characters. I'm not a big fan of going back and saying, character so and so, and then describing that character and going back into their motivations and things like that in the second book, when the people who've read the first already get all that.
Yeah.
But
Too much of a series recap.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan. In theater or in film or any of that. I know it has to be done sometimes, I'm sure, if there's been a long gap in between, but that's just me, so, and my editor's okay with that.
As long as they're okay with it.
True.
I think that's a unique, I'm not sure I know very many stories or book series that don't have like little recaps inside, so that's kind of a unique little quirk.
Well, we do, but they're small.
Yeah.
There's not this big, you won't pick it up. Anyway, that's just me.
So I was curious if you have any advice for aspiring writers.
Well, you're skipping ahead.
I'm
yes,
jumping
of
around.
course.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that is fine. Advice for aspiring writers.
I can
First
also come back to it if you want. We can cut and come back.
No, this is fun. Advice is to write. You're going to get that from probably every person you've interviewed. What advice do you give writers? Write. What is the second thing you do? Keep writing. Paul, my best friend and writing partner, said, reconsider your career. That's what he said. That's neither here nor there. Writing is it's like a muscle. It's a brain thing. The brain is a muscle kind of thing, and you can get into where it's a struggle, and then if you've worked it enough, it becomes routine. So you hear a lot of people talking about they have one book or they have a great idea, they just got to write it down. I encourage people, don't wait till you're my age to start writing. Start early, start often, and write. Join a writers group. They're awesome. You're in a support network of people who are like-minded and understand the struggles that it is to have kids or dogs and a job and daytime, nighttime, whatever it happens to be. And oh, by the way, I've got this great idea I want to get out. There are a lot of classes at the community college level. Highly recommend. I took a lot of creative writing classes when I was in college, and believe it or not, back in high school. Side note: my English teacher recognized that I was not going to make it through high school in a great way, and she allowed. Her name was Mrs. Graham, and this was back in 1980. So that tells you how long ago it was. She allowed me to write.
Not that long ago.
Bless your heart. She allowed me to write for grades because she saw that it was something I was kind of passionate about. She did that. So, but anyway, classes at local community college or regular college or however you want to do. I'm going to plug you. Conventions. If you want to be a writer, go to conventions. There are local conventions. There are small conventions. We've got Count Carolina's coming up. We've got JordanCon. Of course, there are lots of conventions.
Yeah.
Go meet writers. Go to the panels. Find out what they have to say. What I say may not resonate with you, which is cool because we're all unique individuals. But someone else may say, "Oh, that fits for your particular style." You'll meet writers. You'll meet authors. Here I go, stammering my words. You'll meet editors.
Editors,
Talk
publishers.
to editors. Yeah, publishers. and find out what they're looking for. It's not the same as it used to be. You could float an idea and someone would throw some money at you and you could write. You have to have a finished product before anybody else is looking at you.
Well, now
That's
there's
just the way.
what is it? Self-publishing.
Well, that's true. I've not done that.
Mm-hmm.
So find someone who has. That might be your avenue. Truly,
Yeah.
I can't. Like I said, that's not my thing, but it could be. I'm just saying it's that kind of thing. Um, Another key for is a support from your significant other, whoever that happens to be. Dogs are easy, cats are easy because they have a lot of support. If you keep feeding them, they're going to love you no matter what. But writing, you got to treat it like a job,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one of those things that sometimes it's hard if you're upstairs writing. People treat it as a hobby, or treat it or look at you as, oh, you're just playing around. You're not
Mm-hmm.
really serious. But I think a lot of artists, musicians, and
Yeah.
run into that. So getting the support from from family, friends, significant others, whoever happens to be, is also important.
So
Is
like
that what you're looking for?
a good support group.
Which can also be your writing group.
Yeah.
Hmm. And in my case, I'm Paul and I write as a team.
Yeah.
So we have a team,
You
and that
have a
works
built-in
phenomenal.
writing group by having a co-author.
Well, yes, and like I don't know that if you saw me, you'll see me at the convention. But
Yeah.
I don't do a lot of gym work, but if you have a gym partner, it's kind of an accountability thing.
Mm-hmm.
So where are you on that last chapter?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so
Have you worked out that hand muscle lately?
woo. Yeah, the typing, that's my type. There I am. I'm that guy. You know, Paul can talk, type, and do something over here while we're, not me. I'm not that guy.
You're not the multitasker.
No, getting to that point. 60 years old, I can't do it anymore.
Well, you don't look 60.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Good genes. It's not good living. It's good genes. I drink bourbon and smoke cigars, so
There you go. That's why. To kind of switch gears, I saw that you are also in the film industry.
Mhm.
And so you've worked as a consultant and a set director. Do you want to indulge me? Tell me a little more?
Well, I will, as long as you want to be indulged. I can, because there are certain things I can go on and on about. Um, Set director, set decorator. I wasn't a set director. Set decorator, mostly consulting. I've done set decoration twice, which is basically you go in and you set the setup before the shot happens. You make sure that the pictures are on the wall, they're correct. The chairs are in place, those kind of things. Different than props. Props are if the talent touches something, that's props. Wardrobe, if they're wearing it, wardrobe. Set decoration, the desk, the chairs, things like that. We
Yeah.
have to set those up. That kind of thing. But consulting, I've done a lot of consulting for both military and police. It was a pet peeve of mine, and to see people who don't move like they should, directors or different people will have an idea of what they should do or what they think they should be doing. And I'm an advocate of, you got your pistol up here. It may look good because the pistol's in the shot. Nobody anywhere does that. And if you want to see the way people really move, if you watch something as high strung as the John Wick things, if you've watched anything by Keanu Reeves, you know that he's trained by people who
Yeah.
know what they're doing, and it looks cool as shit.
And you can tell, honestly. You can
Yes.
tell that it's more official looking or it's realistic.
I would submit that the people who move correctly look better than the ones who are not.
Yeah.
And so there's a group of us that's kind of our thing. We want to make sure that cops move the way they're supposed to do, military people move the way they're supposed to do, and talk the way they're supposed to. Within reasons, of course. I mean, you've got creative license in anything we do.
Sure.
But,
Sure.
and of course, it's a director's show. If the director doesn't like it, that's fine. It's their
All right,
show.
well that was my 2 cents. Take it or
Yeah,
leave it, I guess.
That's all I can do.
Yeah.
Most people have been, I've not run it. I've had no pushback whatsoever. on the times that I've done consulting work, and it's been a pleasure. And usually the actors and actresses have been very open,
Mm-hmm.
to they're honestly they're so worried about their lines and getting those right. They're like, okay, someone else can show me how to move, we're good,
Great.
kind of thing.
I don't have to pay
Um,
attention to what I'm doing with my hands.
yeah, so film work is a passion, Paul. I've written several screenplays. We've got one in the works right now.
Okay.
So,
I was gonna say, how
so
does this harmonize with your writing?
well, I want to be a writer, and
Yeah.
I want to be a screenplay writer, and a book writer. I like
So there you
both.
go.
I love the movies. I love film. I love theater.
Mm-hmm.
But as a writer, I wanted to delve into that. I know a couple of script supervisors and producers, um, and we've got some ideas. We've written a couple of things to that end, and it's the movie business. You never know until
Yeah.
but it's really cool. Script writing is very different than novel writing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ever, by the way, JordanCon, we'll pause here.
Okay.
We'll move over to here. There's that would be a cool panel, script writing as opposed to novel. I know, it's the Wheel of Time and Jordan and anyway, but still, it's a
Yeah,
cool,
but it's
cool
not
book.
just that. I mean, it's bigger. It's there's more
It
than
is
just
big.
yeah, there's more than just the Wheel of Time. So I have a feeling they're always looking for fresh ideas. So I'll run that by them.
Yeah, the film, you never know. Film
Yeah.
industry is kind of cool. And that's, now everything's getting
Especially
made into.
because now the Wheel of Time has a TV show. So
Mhm. And I can't speak on that. I like the show, but I know a lot of people don't, but that's neither here nor there. So
it's
I've
a comfort.
read the
It's a
book, so I like
comfort.
the show.
Yeah, I know.
I know they're
Oh.
different, but still.
I mean, I think that only people who have been involved in the differences of screenwriting understand that you have to make it very different than the books. But there
You
are,
do.
yeah,
It's tough to tell a story. Tough. You've got a 135,000 word. You know, you got to tell in an hour and a half. How do you do that? You got to cut some stuff.
it's
Got to
almost
skip
like
a bit.
comparing I don't know, any type of blog post to a Twitter post.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. That's a good analogy.
Yeah. You have unlimited words in one sense, and then you only have, what is it, 160 characters for Twitter or something
Hmm.
like that.
Yeah, just characters. Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, not even words, but characters.
Hmm.
Well, that's great. I wanted to ask you another question about writing, and I was curious if you have any writing quirks or rituals that help you for being productive in writing.
Bourbon.
Bourbon.
Well, I'm not kidding.
Kidding, but
I'm a
not
writer.
kidding.
Alcohol is
Yeah.
involved.
Okay.
Um,
Do you have a favorite bourbon?
Now, come on. Yes.
Who doesn't?
Um, yeah, I mean, come on. I like a lot of bourbons, but I've got a friend of mine who's a real connoisseur. I like Calumet. Of course, who doesn't like Buffalo Trace? I like Weller, Blanton's,
I'm actually a big
Booker's.
old granddad.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. Well, I'll bring some to the con and look me up, and I'll bring some.
I'll be there.
Um, the things I do, I like multiple projects. I like to have multiple things online. So
Mhm.
people talk about, well, I like to talk about writer's block.
Mhm.
If you're cruising along on a story and all of a sudden you can't, you hit a dead end, and you do. Everybody knows you do. You
Yeah.
smack into a wall headlong. Put that one down and start another project. And it can be as simple as a short story or a screenplay or something along those lines. Um, I have a desk adjuster. I don't know what you call that. One of those things that rises so you can stand and then lower so
Yeah.
you can sit.
Mhm.
That has been tremendous. I love to, if I'm sitting there and I'm starting to kind of slouch in my chair and get lower and lower,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to raise that thing up, push my chair back and stand, that'll re-energize me.
Changing
Um,
positions, changing your scenery, I've heard
oh,
helps.
yes.
Yeah.
And for some people, again, if you write at home, treat it as a job.
Mm-hmm.
It's really easy to get distracted by chores that need to be done. Oh, look, the grass needs mowing. Oh, look, the dishes need to be done. I'm gonna go downstairs and get a snack. I'm gonna go downstairs and get another snack.
I
Oh,
mean,
look, I'm gonna get
honestly,
another snack.
I think a lot of people have come into this issue in the last couple of years with working from home because of, a little something called COVID.
Was there something going around?
Yeah, just something. And
Didn't
so
affect the
I think
cons at all.
I think that a lot of people are coming to realize that their work from home space really does need to be treated as that's where you work, and
Hmm.
ignore the dishes and ignore the laundry because it's going to be there.
It is. Anybody who, writers
Yeah.
especially. Uh, Chuck, he's a friend of mine. You might have heard of him, Chuck Wendig. Um, he built a shed out back and writes from there. I built a shed out back. It doesn't work for me. Um,
Yep. Everybody
so
is different.
the so I do. I've got an office. I don't have Facebook on my computer. I
Hmm.
don't have. All the social media stuff is not on my computer. So when I'm writing,
You can't get
those are time
distracted by
sinks.
them. Yeah.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
something's popping up. So and so said this. So and so that. Hey, did you know? So that works for me. My daughter-in-law, it has 11 children in her family or something like
Wow.
that, and she can sit there and the hurricane's going on. She's the eye of the storm, and she's in med school, by the way. She can just study and not and have everything going on around her.
Wow.
Amazing to me that she can do that.
Yeah.
No, don't mind me. I've got kids, and they're just bouncing around. They're not hers, not a grandfather yet, but her family's huge. Um, so I like to have multiple projects, and people also like different rituals. Do you timeline or pants it, as they say? And yes, I do both. I like to have a timeline, but it's not a real detailed timeline. I like to know where my characters are heading,
Mm-hmm.
but they'll take you different directions. So where
But
I
it
think
doesn't have
sometimes
to be exactly point A to point B. There could be like some
mm-mm.
spikes in the middle.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
my timeline is. I have found a timeline works. I like to have at least a general direction where they're going,
Mm-hmm.
and I like to have an understanding of where the story is going to take itself. But characters will say, "Yeah, we're not going to do that," and off we go somewhere else. So, but those are kind of my things that work for me.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that.
I don't know if it's helpful, but that's what I.
So besides working in the film industry and being a writer and having a distinguished career in law enforcement, what else have you been up to? It looks like you are an outdoorsman.
They say that. That's what I've been told. I do. I'm big into whitewater canoeing and things like that. Backpacking.
Yeah.
I used to ride a motorcycle until last year. My reflexes just aren't what they used to be
Wow.
anymore. And so I used to be a pretty heavy, I used to ride a lot of motorcycles. That's
That's
not really
fun.
much of an outdoorsman, but
Well, I mean, you're outside. There's fresh
also,
air.
but outside. um, so I've done a lot of backpacking, climbing, rock climbing. Uh, Again, I've done a lot of the Appalachian Trail. I have not done the whole thing, but I've
Oh, great.
section hiked quite a bit of it. Um, I mean, I like to fish. If I'm just outdoors, I'm in good shape.
I mean, that sounds
Um,
pretty outdoorsy to me.
I guess there's my youngest son is what I would consider a real outdoorsman. Him and his wife. That's the one that's in med school.
Okay.
They were wilderness therapy guides where they would take people out into the woods as groups and um, teach them wilderness outdoor survival skills as part of their therapy. Really cool. They're outdoors people.
That's pretty cool.
I play at it.
That's okay. I enjoy hiking and camping and stuff. That's sort of outdoorsy.
It is outdoorsy. Of course it is. Of course.
Well, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us today?
Um, One of the things,
Mm-hmm.
it depends on how much time we have. So I don't know where we're going with.
We're okay on time. We've got a little bit left.
I was gonna say, you had asked at one point about SWAT and military in movies,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to bring up I would be doing a disservice of like, are they do the movies do like SWAT? I was 14 years on the SWAT team here in Charlotte,
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina, and 9 years of that as I was a sniper. And so, is it like the movies? I want to again give you a yes and no question
Okay.
answer. Um, the movies tend to show a lot of conflict between hostage negotiators and SWAT team members, and I
Mm-hmm.
want to put that to bed. It may be it's amazing to me that we have to have that conflict between the hostage negotiators who want a successful conclusion to this, really high risk situation, and the SWAT team who also want
Right.
a good resolution to this high,
Mm-hmm.
and that suddenly we feel like that the SWAT team are a bunch of knuckle dragging, jackbooted thugs that want to go in and kill people, and the negotiators want to just talk everybody out.
Yeah.
It's just not that way.
Mm-hmm.
And you can write a scene, or you can, and is it not complicated enough that we've got a hostage situation in a bank? Is that not enough tension that we
Yeah.
also have to have? You know, we work together as a group, and it's infuriating sometimes to see that, this guy can talk him out. Well, we're going in.
Yeah.
What's your hurry? We can order pizza. If you can still talk him out, talk him out. I
Yeah.
mean, because if we go into a situation like that, everybody's in danger, and it sucks being a hostage in a situation like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recommend it. Never be a hostage if you can avoid it.
Okay, I'll do my best.
Yeah, I know. That's just safety tip.
Yeah.
Um, one of the things that, like, you see the rogue guy also in, where this rogue guy says, "Screw it, I'm going in," and
Yeah.
off they go. That doesn't happen. Um,
How can you have fun Hollywood without it, though, right?
well, I would submit that you can.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's an easy out in my opinion.
Well, and yeah, I guess if it's, and I don't want to, because there's some really great writers out there. They've really written some cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've probably written some really cheesy stuff myself that people will just roll their eyes and say, "Oh my goodness," you know. But we try to do the best we can. It's just that doesn't happen. The other thing is a lot of the times, and I'll use it in my second novel. Using the second one, we have a lot of there's a military aspect to it, more
Mm-hmm.
so than the first one, and I try and make that correct as best as I can, um, and kind of get a little pushback sometimes from the editors when you say Sergeant Major Bishop or
Mm.
Sergeant, Lieutenant Colonel so and so. It seems like it can be, um, I don't know, labor intensive to read that over and over and over again. But that's how people speak
Mm-hmm.
in the military.
Mm-hmm.
If you were, is your last name Jack? It
It
says so
is.
right there.
Yeah.
Okay. If you were Captain Jack,
Yeah.
woo, that'd be very cool. And if I was Sergeant Murphy,
Mm-hmm.
that's how we would address each other
Yeah.
wherever we were, and it wouldn't be, "Hey, Aleena." Now, in private, if we were out, civilian and stuff like that, we might do that. You might say, "Hey, Steve," and I might say, "Hey," but when we were around people, it'd
Mm-hmm.
be, Captain Jack, Sergeant Major Murphy,
Yeah.
whatever it was, and it would be every time. It
Yeah.
rolls off the tongue
It,
until it.
yeah. Yeah. Because it's a natural instinct to do once it's kind of like you learn it when you're in training, I think, and so it just
Yeah,
becomes.
it's just the way you speak.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, cops have their own lingo, military have their own lingo.
Yeah.
Of course, welders have their own lingo, and so do construction workers. So, it just, and I don't think it detracts from the story when you do something like that.
It definitely, I think that for everybody who has any kind of military background or has had experience with anybody in the military, they would recognize that and they would notice, hey, this is real.
That's the goal.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
so, That's one of the things I like to try and put out. I was on a panel at it was either LibertyCon or might have been Con Carolina's back when we were doing things. And there was a military group, and it was, and the military thing was, well, no shit, this is what, there I was. And then you tell a story of some kind. And, but one of the things across the board everybody talked about is the people who are in the military or people who are police officers, medic, doctors, everybody have their own language. Getting that right is kind of important to them. So someone who's not in the business of that, they said, well, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
Well, it is, so let's just defer to that.
A lot of it has to do with like correct representation.
Yeah. I'm not a lawyer. I don't speak like one. I'm not a doctor by any stretch of the imagination. So, I'll go ask a doctor, hey, how would you do this? If I'm going to put it in a book.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's great. I think that's being true to yourself and also to your readers and to anybody who's been in the military.
Yeah, I mean, if you're watching a movie or reading something, you read it, you go, oh, God, I wish they hadn't done that. It gives you a skip. It gives you a pause for just a second. Anyway, you asked. There you go.
Excellent. Well, before I close out, Tom has a couple of closing fun little questions, and
of course he does.
I know. I'll ask you. I'm just going to pick a couple of them, but before I do, I just wanted to genuinely thank you for your service, and not just to you, but to all service members in the past and present and future, and anybody watching. So,
well, thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay, so I'll ask what your favorite word is, even though I know one of them is amazing.
Well, it's funny. I asked it's awesome.
Awesome.
Awesome. That's okay. If you ask my editor, it's just, very, and but, because she's constantly saying, take those out of your, rewrite this thing so you don't have just, very, or
get rid
but
of those words.
I asked my son, and he said it was damn it. It was my favorite word. And believe it or not, my writing partner, Paul, said it's either consider or however, because I really like to argue the other side of someone else's opinion, no matter which side it is.
Yep.
So I do like to say, however, you might want to consider. And that's, faults of mine. But those...
Depends on the situation, basically.
Sure, let's go with that. Or I'm a butthole, either way.
And let's see, what is the first thing you notice about a person?
I can tell you that the cop in me, just for whatever reason, I'm constant. You size them up, and there's no way. I don't think that you could ever get out of that.
Yeah.
You size people up. You sit with your back to a wall. It is a sickness. I wish I could get away from it and just go back to not worrying or not caring. But it's
part of who
what
you
I do.
are now.
It's a shame. I've been retired 9 years. You'd think I would have gotten out of that and not worry about it. But no, I still size people up. And I'm fat and old now.
It's part of your brain now, Steve.
I guess. Anyway.
And do you have a favorite curse word?
Well, yeah. Don't you?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Well, my son says it's damn it.
So favorite curse word and favorite word.
Yeah. And my Paul says it's, well, shit. And I think that's probably it. I do like them all.
Yeah.
But I do say, well, shit. That's probably my go-to, as it were.
Well, it's been a pleasure getting to know you, and I hope that, I'm excited to see you in April.
Yeah, I'm excited to be there. That'll be fun.
It will.
I'll bring bourbon.
Excellent. I will too, and then we can trade.
Oh, I love it. Come on.
Well, have a great rest of your day, and thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Aleena.